kind of be part of this conversation, set some context. Those of you who are online, thank you. We're recording. Those of you who are here, bonus, you get to hang out with Justin and Gabrielle and Cara and Ankur and talk shop, maybe a little bit afterward as well. Just to set the stage for the ET and the COI, the Emerging Tech Community of Interest, one of many here at the Department of Energy, at ACT-IAC, who we all know and love for decades plus. We do today this is our member meeting, and we decided to focus on a specific sector, not so much an agency, but a sector. The Department of Transportation is the sector-specific agency, the Sector Risk Management Agency for DOT as well as DHS. And we're going to talk about what's going on in terms of technology, but also some of the things that these two gentlemen, of course, and Gabrielle, who knows the sector inside and out, how do we get to know what are those problems that need solving? It's not just get a meeting with somebody and go learn something, as Ankur was saying, is if you get those 30 minutes, usually by 20 minutes in, they're already run into their next meeting. So what we want to do is share some stories today and some insights, and there's never going to be enough time. So yes, shout out to the ETCOI. We have so many working groups. We have one that Cara Rose and I lead in terms of Internet of Things and smart cities, but we feel like something like the transportation sector is something those folks will resonate with. So I'm not going to do the bio thing, but part of you connecting with these individuals is their story, their personal and professional journey. So I will introduce them right now, but we're going to jump right in after that. And again, if we say something or use an acronym or just say, what was that all about? Hey, just cut us off and we'll talk. It's a fireside chat. Good to see you, Jet Mercurio. Okay, so titled Digital Future, Risks, Opportunities, and Innovations. I'm here today with Dr. Justin Ubert, DSC, not PhD, which is awesome because I actually now know two people who have that pedigree. That's amazing. Division Chief, Cybersecurity and Operations, Federal Transit Administration, one of 9 or 11, I can't remember, or 10 that are at the DOT, but you all can correct me.
Definitely more than 9.
Okay, definitely more than 9. And with that, Ankur Saini, Chief Technology Officer. I know it says acting in some places, but you're a CTO. I'm a former CTO. I dig it. You're the CTO for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Say that 5 times.
Just think trucks and buses.
Yeah.
That's about it.
The stuff we depend on each and every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Yes.
Amazon runs the trucks.
Gabrielle Rivera, Vice President of Maximus, also our Disruptors in Government Chair, along with Cara Rose, and seen probably Gabrielle everywhere. You never know if she's a gubby or she's in industry because she's just fits right in with both sides of the aisle. And Cara Rose, Director at NASA, and is also one of the Disruptor Government Chairs, but also my sidekick on the working group for smart cities and Internet of Things. So without further ado, I've asked these folks to humanize themselves, give a little bit of background, but focus on, what brought you to where you are, what influenced you, and why you love working where you work. So why don't we start with you, Justin?
Yes. I kind of got lost after the military. I did a few tours downrange, and when I found myself, I was in school for cyber. Don't know why I did that, but I found a passion for serving when I was in the military and carried it over. The cyber mission really spoke to me for that reason. Because it exemplified a lot of those same things that I liked from the military, serving the nation, protection, safety, right? Those types of things really spoke to me. And I don't learn from my mistakes, so I went and got several degrees in cyber because I am apparently just really into pain. I culminated into a Doctor of Doctor of Science for Cybersecurity at a local university, actually, Marymount University, where I also teach both the graduate and undergraduate level. I want to carry that theme of mission, serving and the mission. Mission focused. I've been mission focused since I got in the military and learned what a mission is. And from a federal transit and DOT perspective, I like to carry that into everything I do. We are working at serving our constituents, right? And those constituents are all of you, whether you know it or not. Everybody who rides on something to get from point A to point B, FTA is involved in your travel some way, somehow. And one of the things that I love most about that is that service is for everybody, but particularly I like the fact that people who don't have the ability to get around with a vehicle sometimes. They now have connections across their city because of the mission that we serve. So it's a little bit about me and why I do what I do and why I love being where I'm at.
You know what I love about what Justin did, and thank you for your service, is where did you hear much about IT in there? Because newsflash, we all know in this room that technology underpins a lot of the mission. But please, if I may, what I used to love when I was in government was folks like Gabrielle who would come and say, we can support the mission in a capacity, but it's not going to be about the IT. It's understanding and needing to learn more about what it is, not keeps you up at night, but about the specific elements of FTA. And I'm going to screw up saying that acronym of yours, Ankur, but that type of administration as well. So good stuff. Gabrielle, your perspectives. I'm going to come right to you, and then I'll go to Cara and Ankur. But you hear Justin talk about, his journey and what brought him to be on the federal side. Your perspectives and what are you doing at Maximus on a day-to-day basis?
We do talk about serving the government that serves the people. And so when you talked about mission, each agency has a unique mission, but of course it all underpins serving the people. And so that's really exciting for me because thinking about the strategy side of things, how we can improve the service to the people, but also how we can improve daily lives for those that serve inside. And so we really see that as twofold. We see it as a holistic element for us. And so I think that that's what really got me into the federal side. Which had originally started with more state and local and even commercial. And so I think federal is so exciting because it's something that all of us experience. And so as an example, both transportation and NASA, these are things that we watch, we ride on, we fly on, all of us unite and celebrate together for growth. And I think that that's an exciting thing for me. My focus right now encompasses a couple different portfolios, federal financial agencies, regulatory commissions, and then administration and enforcement, which of course encompasses transportation and NASA as well. And so, for us, and especially ACT-IAC, this has been something that's been incredible for myself and our government counterparts. We've come together to solve problems, create strategies, and really share. And I think that's the exciting thing about this conversation today is not just one mission or a portion of the mission, but how we can learn from each other.
Wonderful. Doesn't do herself any justice, as humble as she is, but just so you know, one of the reasons I was fired up to have Gabrielle here and welcome her team with Maximus for coming out and thank you is just the fact that she knows about the administration itself or the department of. I mean, you talked a lot earlier about aviation, highway, maritime, mass transit. These are the missions. And if you're selling into government or you're partnering with government, knowing that outside of how technology underpins, as we say, is one of the things that makes her awesome. So thank you for being here today, Gabrielle. Cara Rose, I know you're not at DOT, but you and I were chatting about what makes it all tick up in space. So a little bit of background on you.
So thank you for having me, co-chairs to both of these lovely people. Apparently I just don't say no when they ask me, but
that's true, but thank you for that.
But they're also very good at telling me exactly what I have to do. So thank you for that. No, so I've been at NASA just over a year and I am in end user services, which is very different from what I've done in the past, but it's been pretty fun. Everything we do in my office touches the mission because nobody does their jobs anymore without their computer, their mobile phone, the network, the teams, I have the collaboration services too. So it's really exposed me to all the different missions of NASA. So even you guys have different missions within the Department of Transportation. Within NASA, there's so many different missions related to research, science, not just human spaceflight, but obviously human spaceflight is one of the biggest ones. And one of the things that Pete and I talked about was it's all about collecting the data, using the internet, that type of thing. And half the satellites now are getting launched from NASA. So really powerful commercial government relationship going on right there and looking to strengthen it more with the new interim administrator who serves the Department of Transportation too. So look, we didn't plan this, but it's all come together. It's like the administration knew that we were getting together and did that for us. Thank you.
And Cara and I, in the hats we wear with the working group within the COI around Internet of Things and smart cities and smart connected devices. I mean, think about it, the data that our cars are collecting and talking. It's most likely to a satellite being somewhere else, some large language model to hopefully make the planes, trains, and automobiles and other types of transit safer. So that's my segue to this guy. Because to be honest, we all think of FAA and DOT. Why not? Right? I used to work in education and there was federal student aid and the rest of the department. There's a lot of cool stuff happening outside of FAA, no disrespect. So Ankur, a little bit about you.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff happening at DOT outside of FAA. And most of you probably know this, but don't think about it a lot. But freight in US moves on trucks. It doesn't move on planes. It doesn't move on trains. There's about 10 million trucks that drive on our roads every day. So how I got here, well, I moved here in 2001. I was born and raised in New Delhi, India. And I've always lived in the DC area. So I was destined to either work for the government or somebody that serves the government, right? So it was there's no getting away if you live in this area from that. The two biggest driving factors in my life always have been understanding why I do something. Like, for example, I'm really bad at chemistry because I don't understand it behind it. Everything else, all the sciences other than that, I can deal with. Chemistry, I can't. Because there's exceptions that I function well in that area. And the second thing is, I always want to elevate things and make an impact where possible for me to do. So I started in GovCon, did that for 14, 15 years. And then as I was working with agencies and I'm seeing their problems from the perspective of you all see today, I always wondered, like, if you could be on the inside and make a decision, you could have so much more of an impact, right? So an opportunity opened up in 2016 for me to go join the federal government, and that's exactly what I did. And I absolutely love what I do. If you ever visit DOT and FMCSA, the moment you get off the elevator, there's a big frame with pictures inside of all the people that have died in truck crashes, right? And you're talking about children, women, old people, young people, all kinds. And knowing that the work you do can help prevent those things is very powerful in terms of a catalyst to, every day show up when you're feeling down, like, oh, I don't feel like doing something. There's a bigger purpose behind what we do, right? Yes, we can build an application. Yes, we can secure some system, but we do those things so that, we can safely share the roads between trucks and buses and cars and motorcycles and whatnot. So that's what drives me. That's what makes my job interesting. So because I know when we do our job well, there's less of those unfortunate events on the road.
Now, let me comment now that those are our introductions. And of course, LinkedIn tells a wonderful story about all these amazing people. For me, what struck me was, I got to see Justin for the first time ever in Cambridge earlier this year when you were on stage. And actually, Jeff Mercurio here was mentioning your name to me over a year ago. I'm like, I got to know that guy to figure out how to do it. The reason this cat's here is because Justin said, who would be great on this panel with me? And that's how I think a lot of us need to think about understanding when it comes to, and this is what ACT-IAC is all about, right? Partnership, safe haven, learning in a humanizing way that when bad stuff happens, people die. And in transportation this year, we've seen stuff in the news that have been tragic. And we know we'll read about something tomorrow. And I don't say that because I want to freak the world out, but when I was at Energy, when we had to deal with post-Katrina and the impact on the grid, that's to me when you can sit back and say, no, that's something I'm going to go talk to Ankur or Justin about. And I know Gabrielle does it. And that is, let me go understand how I can help this sector, whether it's through technology or services, improve, be more efficient, save more lives. It's not just a DoD line.
Yeah, so I'll add on.
We're going to riff a lot. So
Yeah,
riff,
so-
you're
yeah.
going to see how this goes.
I'm glad you brought up the importance of having conversations and talking to each other to solve problems. So let's talk about IT modernization. It's like,
Hey, he teed it up. I love it.
right? So
Not in the talking
that's
point.
not in soccer.
Great job.
Thank you. So
We'll get rid of it.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about modernization, like, why are we modernizing anything? Like, I'll take my example. Department of Transportation, our major focus is safety, right? Who's responsible for safety? It's transportation, you, trucking companies. The right answer is all of us, right? So we are safer when everyone participates in that safety process, right? So the North Star we've set for IT modernization is we're going to make interactions between all the impacted stakeholders and entities easier and seamless, because when we make it easier and seamless, everybody likes to participate. That makes us safer, right? So those conversations, if you have to submit a compliance report, making it a 5-second process rather than a 5-minute process, or reducing the barrier to entry for new trucking companies so that the application goes smoothly, we can detect fraud easier. Everything that we make simpler makes it easier for law enforcement or FMCSA or the trucking companies or the brokers to easily participate in that process. Because if you make it difficult, they don't.
So let me just say this, and then I want to pivot over to this side and just jump in, because none of this is scripted, by the way. When you talk about making it easier in the conversations, yeah, we're having something like this today, but a lot of people are going to leave today and say, you know, I want to learn more, and I want to kind of maybe go have a deeper conversation because I think I can help with that. So let me take what you're saying, and I think we could all agree, communities of practice and interest are important. I think a lot of industry personally, and let me ask Gabrielle this, is it's like the buy-sell transaction is always, you know, got to make money. There's a bottom line. There's the P&L from an industry. And government, I used to call it the ultimate nonprofit, it's got problems that need solving. They got money. I mean, look, folks, there's an RFI on the street with transportation. I'm happy to share that with you after. I've read the budget. I hope you all have. There's a lot of money with the letter B after each, including this gentleman's and that gentleman's administration. You can read about their mission. Yes, yes. There's money.
Charge Amazon.
I'll take it.
But Gabrielle, do you have a perspective on, like, when you're hearing the folks, it's getting to know them and then building the trust, but also what are some of your observations over the years? You know, you've excelled at fostering partnership. What are some of the things that has helped you out? Because you can provide all the best tech in the world. Maximus is known for being that kind of. What are some of your tips and things you've learned because you have these relationships?
So it's interesting because the tools and technologies are going to continually change and advance, and they have to. So I think it's less about the technology being foundational for any of that. As an example, one of the things that, you know, I'll just give transportation, and this is even going to be true, you know, for NASA, is that we have to look at the intersection between policy, regulation, and you brought up modernization, and how does all of that come into play, right? So as an example, understanding that on the industry side, you have to understand it's a more complex issue that we're trying to solve rather than just a simple tool or technology. It's easy to come in and say, hey, I know a lot of enterprise-wide you know, agency implementations that could be streamlined. Why do you have 6 different instances of Splunk? That's math. That's an easier problem to solve. However, when you're sitting on the precipice of environmental regulations and mandates and policies and executive orders, and then when you talk about a bottom line or a P&L, well, even on the government side, from a budgetary perspective, now we're expected, which is not necessarily uncommon, but perhaps in a different capacity with different outcomes, to do more with less. And so how do I come to the forefront with solutions that might not always just be from a technological perspective, taking into all of those facets into account to be able to assist with a larger strategy and how we do more with less? How do I bring efficiencies on my side as a contractor in order to successfully deliver that to you? And guess what? The, you know, uptimes, they're not going to, you know, diminish by any means. They're going to increase. We're expected to have more services at a higher level and a higher satisfaction level, and quality is always paramount. None of that is going to change. So that, just to kind of summarize that, it's not just understanding the mission and the budget. We can all look at that and research that. It's understanding the underlying complexities, why you're trying to achieve what you are, and how I can come to the table.
So hearing that, and again, very connected to Justin, I'm going to pivot to you. Hearing Gabrielle talk like that, if she's doing her homework and she comes in and she may know about budgets and opportunities, and maybe there's a GAO report out, hint, hint, GAO reports are great, even though they're usually a little bit dated. I'm going to come to you with this one too, being Miss NASA. Justin, how does that make you feel when you hear from someone from industry? It's like, I'm going to do my homework because there might be a chance I could solve a problem. There might be an RFP on the street, but it's not just about, like, does the current incumbent not do well? Like, doesn't this resonate with you? And what are some of those things, being a cyber guy, where compliance and regulation and, that's always going to be an opportunity to help somebody be more risk mitigation focused. How does this make you feel? And how do you think about this as a technologist?
So, the thing that really resonates me, you're talking about this is how can you help me solve problems, right? That's, I get, I love LinkedIn, but I hate it. And I'm gonna kind of pivot to this because I get so many cold calls on there, and it's tough because I would love to talk to everybody, but I don't have the time. And what I'm being sold is just a tool, right? It's a thing that I don't know if it fits in my environment, my problems. I'm just being sold something in that DM, right? What Gabrielle has described is a partnership. Come to me and show me you've done some work. Show me what you've learned about what we've got. Tell me what you think. Let's have a dialogue, figure it out. There's a lot of synergy between that policy, compliance, and then these modernization efforts that we're trying to do. There's a lot of synergy there that we got to balance all of these things. It's complex. And the whole time we are still thinking, despite those fees behind the numbers in that budget, we are thinking dollars and cents too. We're trying to keep it low because that's value for the taxpayer, right? We got to make sure we keep that forefront in mind. All these things come together, and what I need from anybody who's coming is a partnership. Help me solve these problems. Tell me what you bring to the table, not a solution, not a tool, but a solution for the total problem. Show me you understand what my mission is and what my environment context is so that we can work on this together. And right now, those things are changing rapidly. We've got an administration that has a lot of priorities that they're bringing to the table, and they're going, and we're expected to keep up. So I expect the same. I want to hear from my partners that come to me. How can we help you with this thing that just hit? Look at the cool stuff we've already done. How can we pull this in? Right? That's the kind of thing I want to see.
Now, Justin, I failed to mention, Justin is also highly involved in ACT-IAC as a member of the Cybersecurity COI. If you're not part of any of these, I'm part of the resilient infrastructure one, and talked to this lady about how to get involved. She seems to be doing so many things. I don't know how she juggles, but he's the programs. So you may not get a meeting with Justin, on a Tuesday, wherever he is, but you come to a COI, you could probably have that conversation. And that's what we're
membership meeting tomorrow.
So, but I appreciate that, and we'll get into a little bit of the cyber risks. I'd like to get your perspective on some of the things you're seeing, but the risks to our federal transit, are as like planes, trains, and automobiles, the highways. Those are things can't forget that artificial intelligence and cybersecurity are going to be a big part of any solution. And if you notice, we don't have the CIO here. No disrespect to Pavan, but these are folks that can help you with that. As I pivot to Cara, who works in a CIO kind of organization. These guys, the labyrinth that agencies are. Sometimes talking to Justin and Ankur, they may not be, the CIO shop for the department, but they're on speed dial with those that need to. It's good to get to talk to these folks. Even it's just help me navigate the place. So, Cara, NASA, give me your thoughts. We talked about this earlier, right? You're in an enterprise IT services organization. You're more focused maybe on the specific IT and those solutions. What's it like when industry wants to meet with you? What's your advice to them?
And I was actually going to pivot back and ask Gabrielle to share more.
Do it.
A lot of, I think, the problems are deep-seated, have lasted forever. The bodies are buried, that type of thing. And coming into an organization new is difficult on the civil servant side and on the contractor side. And it cannot undersell the value of just building the relationships. I cannot tell you how we dock at the space station and the physics behind that, but I can tell you the guy who hated me for putting his phone into supervised mode so he couldn't download Signal anymore. And you know what? He recognized me in the elevator 8 months later. But now he knows me, and we talk about what problems I can solve for him. And it really is about those relationship building pieces from the contractor side, from the internal side. But I think maybe one thing that could be helpful to I know some are from Leidos and some are from some other big companies, but the smaller companies, how do they form those relationships and figure out how to dive into the deep-seated problems? Because I said the same thing to Pete earlier, like, do not call me or DM me and say, hey, I want to talk to you. What do you want to talk to me about? What problem are you going to help me solve? Because there's plenty of problems to be solved. But if you don't have that in with the history, how can you help me solve those problems?
So I'm happy to take that. And I know that there's also some folks from all sizes of business, whether it's small, medium, or large, that's in the room. And what's interesting, and that's where I think an organization like ACT-IAC is so important, is that it is definitely not about the size of your organization is the first thing. The second thing is it really is about creating that neutral platform. And so whether you are small, medium, or large, we all have the same access to the COIs, to the working groups. There are a lot of white papers. We spend a lot of time putting those things together, by the way, in our working groups. Please read those.
We spend a lot of time talking about them.
The night, they're really good. And it's not even just like from a white paper perspective, but high level design documentation, architecture. I mean, we have a lot of these initiatives that are very forward leaning. And it's interesting.
And those documents are worked on by both sides of the coin. So that's giving you both perspectives if you're not reading them.
And not only that, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I had never thought about the size of the business coming in to work on those together because we all have that same access, that same knowledge, and that same passion, right? And so I think when it comes to that relationship building, again, I can go and look at your mission. I can read your 24 to 26 strategic plan, and that's phenomenal. But it's really these conversations, and it really is a lot of these working groups that provide that foundation of knowledge. As an example, I'm just going to give you one little thing in talking to Cara. I didn't realize, and it was only until you mentioned it in one of our working groups, just how critical iPads were in your organization. See, but
I didn't either until I tried to take them away. I'm sorry, everyone. I apologize.
Well, and I remember
I was looking to save money.
And I remember because they're expensive and I get that. And so, but I remember you telling that story and, that's just a person to a person and us having conversations. So, one of the other things while we're kind of just in the trust training talking and, especially for shout out Partners 24 or just partners in general, because I see a bunch of you there. Oh, I give you a shout out, guys. One of the things that I think is also important when we bring government and industry together is us really sharing. We talked about like reading the tea leaves, and you guys don't have to do that. Like it's in the PWS. If you guys just tell us how you can solve this, that would be amazing. Or, oh, what if you mentioned like this crazy random tool or technology? Is it even ATO'd in your environment? Could it be? What if it's some crazy international tool that's we talk? It's never going to make it in your environment. You can never adopt it. And so again, I think it's not, yes, you need to come informed, but again, forming the relationships to your point enables you to have those meaningful conversations.
So let me pivot to that, take that, I should say, and to both of you. Let me start with Justin, because this is where I want you to, we all understand the value of open government principles, collaboration, transparency, participation. It isn't easy. I mean, this meeting is your meeting for those of you who came. And when you go home tonight or tomorrow, please don't email me and say, Pete, can you introduce me to Justin or Ankur? Yeah, that's happened. I'm like, well, you were there, and I think he'd even take your call or even a DM. Gabrielle's point about partnership and actually going to ask questions. I have a tool, not even sure I want to talk about it. It might require some level of an AT. Talk right now about the things that you both are excited. Maybe there's a project or an initiative, or maybe some of this has helped where you've learned from industry, but can you, for our audience and others, talk a little bit about now what keeps you up at night, but something you're excited about and how technology is enabling that to advance your mission?
You want to tee off? You got a lot going on right now.
I got a lot.
Let's go, Ankur.
So I think one thing that I'm super excited about over the next 18 months or so is our industry is very heavily regulated, right? And it's very diverse, right? So as I say, the beauty about this country is democracy. Our biggest constraint, democracy. So it's like we work across 50 states. Every state has different rules. They don't want to follow the same rules, but we got to enforce the same rules because if something goes wrong, they always look at everyone says it's not doing their job, right? but you can't really enforce the same rules. So it's just a mess. But what really makes a difference is understanding how to differentiate a safe motor carrier from an unsafe motor carrier. Right? Today's world, we have these things called basics. These are like some measures that we've come up with over the last few years based on research. So there's these 6 measurements that we measure for each motor carrier, and based on their scores, you fall into high risk loads, right? So what I'm really excited about is we are right now working on a project where we are assimilating transactional data from all of our systems, whether it be registration, inspections, investigations, compliance, enforcement, all those systems, aggregating that data. And once we are there with those data pipelines, unleashing pattern recognition through AI to really understand what a DNA of a safe carrier is and how it differentiates from an unsafe carrier. And since we have a streamline of all their activities throughout their life cycle, you can literally say, if these 4 things happen in a reasonable amount of time, they're more likely to get into a crash. So we can target our interventions in a more meaningful way.
Predictive analytics.
And it's very important because FMCSA is a 1,200 people agency. We are regulating 1 million active carriers, right? And these are companies, not trucks. So 1 million active carriers includes your mom and pop shop that has 1 truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks, but it also includes FedEx, UPS, Walmart, JB Hunt, Penske, the trucks that you see on the highway every day, right? And it's Swift, right? Those ones. So you have companies that own thousands of trucks, and you have companies that own 3 trucks. The rules are the same, right? So I'm excited about understanding what that looks like and how we can target those interventions more effectively, because 1,200 people agency, we work with every law enforcement agency across 50 states. We do about 4.5 million inspections a year. That's a big number, right? But there are 10 trucks. There are 10 million trucks.
And
right?
I would imagine that you're dealing with the volume, velocity, variety, veracity of data.
All of that.
That without context is just data, but with information and context.
That's very good.
So
yeah, so he brought up AI, so it's his fault.
we gotta go there.
Yeah, we do. So, and just so you guys are clear, I'm known a lot for the cyber stuff, and I'm very heavy in the cyber stuff. But I also, like you, Cara, I have some end user services, and I also, I love my users, but they also remember me, and sometimes not for the reasons I'd like. But I also do IT operations, right? So the infrastructure, and so what I look at, the area of responsibility that I have, especially how all of my program areas, because it's cybersecurity, privacy, IT operations, and end user services, all of that, there's actually some good synergy there. The reason I'm kind of talking about this is I have a multi-dimensional approach to problems, and I have a lot of problems that have similarities. And if I turn it, there's another problem. There's another problem. So AI excites me right now because we've got, when we started kicking off the whole let's figure out AI. Now the very first thing is my cyber hat's on, like, oh, data. How are we? I've got to protect the data. I'm looking at all these novel attack vectors, right? So I'm nerding out on how we can do this right, and enable this quickly, but securely. We want to have safe and secure operations. So the first bit I'm tackling from an AI perspective is how can I get it into people's hands without us being on the news or doing damage to our mission or our constituents, right? And then the next bit is now I've got to include this in my operational plan, and I've got to figure out how to get it in my environment. And while we're doing this, the expectation is that we have stable operations. So I'm now like, twisting my hat a little bit on the ops guy. I'm like, okay, so we got, cloud right now is the best way to do it, at least for rapid adoption, maturity there, FedRAMP models. I can bring all that in and ensure that stable and safe. Okay, but what kind of use cases are we going to have? Well, that's not really my wheelhouse, but I've got to be involved because I've got to supply the environment and the compliance. So now I'm working with our responsible AI officer, who's amazing. We stole her from DOL. Fantastic. And so an example that we're doing right now, it's not in production, so I want to be very clear. It's not production, but we're testing out how to pull in all the CFRs and legislative language and do compare and contrast analysis, analysis points, and speed up that type of analysis, which is amazing. I mean, it is such a time saver for our lawyers and legal personnel who are just in the mix on this. And so all of these dimensions excite me because I'm solving multifaceted problems in real time, and I can see benefit back to the people who are servicing all of these, all of their customers out there in the regions. Again, just like you described, we have every transit agencies are mom and pop, one bus, somebody with one bus in a small town who provides a service to get people from that stoplight to that stoplight to WMATA, right? Amtrak. All of these are part of the folks that we provide both funding from a grant perspective and oversight, right? And so my mission, the way I look at things and things that excite me, especially around AI and what we're doing with it, is how can I provide a better environment to get quicker services to the people that are supporting those services to those people, right? It's a little bit of a chain, but that's the exciting bit for me. And I get to do that from several different dimensions. It's super cool.
So let me just feedback, because again, I'm just thinking like what people think. And over the record, I mean, I don't sell anything. I'm just a dude who started a company called Dots and Bridges, but connecting dots and building bridges with people. Hearing you talk as a cyber guy who does more than that and cares about AI, you started talking about a specific mission that if I was reading in an executive summary for a proposal was, I know this is something you care about, Justin, or at least the department does. And Ankur, I want to, both talked about what you hit on some AI stuff and data, which is great, right? That all matters, but the application of it, right? For example, we at the FTA and at the Motor Carrier Safety, I said it, Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Here's a question I have for the three feds, and then Gabrielle, I want you to come in and add some color on, how you do your part to engage and learn. So for you two and Cara, there's a CIO at agencies who, through the council and Klinger Cohen, are dubbed in many cases the ones that oversee the large IT budget. How do you two and you engage with, this is what we need in FTA, and bring that to the attention of the person who is clearly at the table? And it could be innovative, or it could be to meet a compliance requirement. How do you collaborate with your CIOs in your organizations? Let's start with really Cara. I mean, you work with, but you have a enterprise services perspective. I mean, how do you engage so that these folks know they don't always have to go to the CIO?
Well, so I'm in a position, this is the first time I've, run end user services, and you know what, it actually comes with the biggest budget ever that I've had. So it's nice. Because I've had so expensive. But it really, end user services, the IT it takes to run an organization, that costs money. And so like in the services I offer, like per capita probably isn't my biggest budget, but like just dollars on a paper, I'm like, wow, this is so much money. I ran an innovation shop on like $1 million and put out stuff that's still in production now. So I'm not the right one to answer this question, is what I'm telling you, because I feel like I have too much. Not really. I don't have too much money. Take that on. But yeah, like I don't feel like I'm working necessarily with the most constrained budget in these times where other things are being slashed so much. So I think that I'm in a good situation where leadership recognizes there's a cost to doing business these days, and that includes giving people the collaboration software, the computers, the phones, the tablets that they need to complete their jobs.
So, and the question wasn't a trick one. It was obviously, well, you answered it in our prep call. You're like, I may not have the biggest budget. Oh, but I'm an influencer. The mission of NASA, science, aeronautics, human-centered design and technology. This is right out of their strategic plan. 6 directorates.
You've read it.
I have read it, but I'm trying to say there are 19 centers and facilities,
Yes.
those of you who work with. So enterprise services,
Everywhere.
you know, and Gabrielle knows, you may not have the budget. The CIO does not generally, I've worked for many, at 8 at DOE in like my 8 years there. It's the money is in the mission. Mission is what matters. And I would just encourage everybody as we sit here is know who's on the org chart, but this kind of environment, Justin, if even it's tell me how to navigate. That's super helpful. Ankur, you know, it's the CTO. I mean, how are you having that influence at DOT?
So from my perspective, CIO and CTO are complementary or very different roles, right? I envision the CTO role to interact with both the mission driven, that would be our law enforcement agencies from an FMCSA standpoint. We work with every police force across the country. We work with industry coalitions. We work with our enforcement staff, our program personnel that are on the field. So in my role, my job is to get a pulse of all those people and build technology products that makes their life easy.
Break. You just jumped into the Department of Justice and their mission, right? He's DOT, but that cross-pollination is very, very
Right.
interesting. Go.
So that's my role, right? Now, for me to remain focused on that and not do anything else, I need my folks to have laptops, internet connectivity. That's where Cara comes in, right? And phones that work, internet at every site. That's the role of the CIO. And all the commodity IT services, if I don't have to worry about them, I can focus on things that I need to do.
Right. And if I'm doing my job, you don't have.
And I don't have to worry about it, right? That's how we.
So newsflash, I used to say, yeah, I'm the CTO of energy, and some guy who I work with and is a mentor said, no, man, you're not the chief technologist. You're the connective tissue officer. And I will say, I loved it because that is that job that you have. And every agency needs to get to know whether they're called the CTO or not, somebody who has those connections. Because just now, I never even thought about that way. How the DOT. DOJ, you might have past performance. Everybody, we have no past performance at this. Yeah, but you might be working with an agency that they work with. So I encourage that. So Gabrielle, you're hearing this. Is this all like new to you, news to you? Or do you have a perspective on that? It's hard to navigate these agencies when you're trying to meet their mission.
So, sorry, I have to digress because shocker. Just really quickly, one of the things I wanted to go back to that you hit on was him talking about cyber being a cyber guy, us talking about AI, but then talking about infrastructure and, engineering and operations. What's interesting though, is that, cybersecurity, and I feel like we talk a lot about this, so I will circle back and close the loop here. So just give me a sec. But, cybersecurity is first of all supposed to be foundational in everything that we do. So when we talk about AI, that's one thing. It's also supposed to be, foundational in cloud. It's supposed to be foundational in applications. It's supposed to be foundational in our physical IT infrastructure. And so I think that when we have that lens, which gets me back to how is it difficult to navigate the agencies, I feel like that's consistent amongst the agencies, right? And sometimes that's an opportunity for us that's missed on both, the contractor side, and also how I think we can bridge that on the government side with our support. One of the things that you brought up at the onset was, dealing with the CIO and how that flows down and how do they, get what they need from the mission. And, from my side and my perspective, when I'm hearing this, I hear our support and what we can do, seeing not just other missions, which is actually something that we talked about before we got up here, was it's so exciting having so much exposure to different agencies because I'm seeing what someone is doing over here that may be beneficial for over here. Conversely, I may also see lessons learned that we can share between government and industry. We talked earlier about DoD and federal civilian and health. So I think it's much bigger than even just that. The other thing too, and am I hearing this and this is new, I think for a lot of folks, there is a lot of overlap between missions, between agencies that you may not think. There is also a lot of information sharing. So when you're talking about unifying your own data and data pipeline, I think that that's magical. I think that there's also a government-wide initiative that can streamline some of that, right? Some of this we have to transfer data based on either mandates and or IRS as an example, right? You have to take data in from, someone brought up, federal student aid earlier, and then also, CMS. And that's also what, goes into the calculations, formulating that data for accuracy. So I think that there is a lot of overlap here, but, just to crystallize kind of what I'm thinking and seeing is that I always look at all these conversations as an opportunity to learn. So I always hear something new, but I also think about immediately, what can I be doing on my side to be able to support that, to arm the folks that I interact with to be able to go to leadership or to the Hill to say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Here's high level design documentation or artifacts or a demo. I think we also, you brought up the administration, we're in so much more of a show me versus tell me, right? So is there some sort of a proof of concept or proof of value that could bring that into reality so that we actually have metrics? We're making data-driven decisions versus conceptually. I hope that helps.
Oh, big time. I mean, again, we're not here with tags on. Gabrielle was just like, I don't even need to have my company, mentioned, and that you're not identified by where you work, but what you just described is on the other side, being a connective tissue officer in your own agency of 55,000 people. It's how do you connect those dots? And what you just, for me at least, and I hope, I'm sure.
And across agencies, right?
And across, so maybe let's just go there. I mean, for a quick minute, like what Gabrielle just said, is that a recipe for the connection with the stakeholders? I mean, do you have any advice for industry? I mean, you hear how she does it, and that's not something you just learn overnight. There's no script on it. You have to have that energy
We
behind
haven't
it.
followed any of the scripts so far.
But yeah, just hearing, from your industry partner, is that a perspective that you?
I think so. I think we're in an age where the silos are going to get broken, whether we like it or not, right? So we're right there. So eventually, at some point, we have to break down the silos that are departments and agencies and everything in the middle. So did you know FMCSA also runs 40 of our land port of entries on the southern border and the northern border, right? And we run it right next door to CBP. Do you think we share data? Probably, right? So we do.
That's good. Good
Yeah,
job.
we do. But it's still in a very, controlled way, right? Where I can see certain things but not everything, and they can see certain things but not everything, because our missions are different, right? They're trying to prevent illegal things coming in. We just want to make sure the driver's safe and the truck's safe to be on the US road. So complementary
They can
missions,
safely bring in illegal drugs.
as long as CBP clears them and the truck is clear, they go wherever they want, right? So, but two people need to clear them at some point.
So I hope I can articulate this, because there were several threads that really stood out. So the cybersecurity part, right? It should be in everything. It should be foundational. Which if you're in a cyber, a lot of people talk about shift left and things like that, which means put it as far left in the process ideation as you can, and that's wrong. It should be part of the product from ground up. It's not just a shift left, it's intentional design. And this is going to tie back to your question about CIO and what does a CIO bring you. So you guys know we have a new CIO. And one of the things I took from the various talks he's had so far is product centric, drivers, right? He wants, that product centric. And so I go, okay, from a cyber perspective, right? I have to make sure we're integrated from the ground up. It's not, I'm going to bolt on DevSecOps. I'm not going to. So I need to pull all those together. So the other thing that I wanted to kind of tug on that is that open data. We got an EO and about breaking down silos and sharing data. And so if we don't have cybersecurity as foundational integrated element from the ground up, how can we share data? Open data doesn't mean everybody can grab all the data all the time. Open data means that for those who need the thing, we get the thing to them. It's available and ready immediately. And back to that idea earlier, is easily, right? And the only way we're going to do that is if we've got this integrated as a whole product, whether we're talking about security, breaking down silos, ease of access, modernization. These are all integrated design methodologies that should be complementary and pushing this product forward. Again, back to the product, right? Product centric. So you know, I see myself a little bit as a cog in the wheel in terms of making sure all this happens, but I'm trying to take that view of how are we ensuring that whatever we're doing, product centric, we're integrating all these design elements from the get-go, and we're modernizing in a way that breaks down these walls. And again, is servicing these administrative initiatives like the open data. So I hope that kind of pulled it all
Yeah,
together.
it did. And again, when I heard you speak, I you know,
Got chills, right?
remember. I think I actually threw you an unintentional hardball, and you were so eloquent with like, well, I'm not the right guy for that, but it was my bad in terms of I just thought I'd heard you talking about something specific, but you said something that day, which again, why I love Justin. He's always balancing the adoption of what's emerging in a technology base, but also what is ready for prime time, and I appreciate you saying that. So I just wanted to bring that up. We got a little time. I like to pivot into sort of the future state kind of thing. I mean, you've heard enough about what they care about today without saying what's keeping you up at night, but these are things that I hope that you've gleaned. But if I may put you a little on the spot, each of you, you know, just something that, you know, we know AI is part of the future and cybersecurity, but you're working on Vision Zero, or it's a program that people might want to know about.
That's the department's vision of saying nobody dies on the road.
Right, but it's the department's goal to eliminate serious injuries and fatalities on our roads.
Yeah.
Like that to me is powerful. And what is Vision Zero? There's got to be some technology obviously involved in that. I just mentioned that as a buzzword, but the future, like how do you see as CTO, like one of the most or some of the most impactful technologies that are going to save lives in the future?
I think it can cut both ways, but self-driving trucks, self-driving cars. You know, and right now we're in an era where you see these things and they're in sort of limited use, but it's more of a trust issue than a technology issue at this point, you know? And the sooner we get over the trust issue, you'll see a large scale adoption, right? I just came back from Scottsdale, Arizona, and you can get a Waymo there from the airport, right?
Yes.
And if you just stood there and watched these Waymos go in and out of the airport, you realize how far more efficient and good drivers than actual drivers themselves, right? Because those cars have the confidence of saying, I have all the data to make a decision, I'm just gonna make it.
And I'm going to focus on those data points where we're all texting and driving. I'm not saying humans are, but I'm going to riff because my buddy from Google talked about a city where these are popping up, and he's just like, it seemed like people are walking out with their phones, getting in the back of a car. There's no driver, and it's just taking them where they need to go. That's a great example that might strike a little fear, but it is the future.
But see, here's the fear. So I have this thing called
The sky is falling. Okay, rain on the parade.
No, I mean, there's a grandma-grandpa test, right? So everybody drove here today? Yeah. How many people were upset at somebody on the road today? There you go. Everybody that didn't raise their hand, these guys were upset at.
It's not two hands.
It's raining this morning, so.
Question.
Right? So we're always upset at this like terrible driver,
Yes.
right? So when we judge AI, right, we're like, this driver has to be perfect. Yet the terrible driver that you just cussed at this morning is on the road. Is AI worse than that person? Or is AI worse than the grandma that drives into the shop full speed? Probably not. But those drivers have licenses, and you have no qualms sharing the road with them. So it's coming to the point where, is AI better than an average driver? If the answer is yes, then you're safer, right?
And I'm gonna jump, Justin. Like I'm of the ilk. I've always been I see the future. I wish I would invest in the stocks when I thought nobody'd be into like groceries and books online and Amazon at $3 a share. It's music video. They're too expensive. That's my miss. That was my miss back in the day. But when I think of AI, we know it is to me an inflection. This is like to me where the internet was. I was there in '91 at the Pentagon when the internet wasn't born yet. I'm 58. But that was a point where it was like, it was right there in front of us, and look where we are today. I think absolutely we would all agree AI is going to have some impact. It's going to cure cancer. It's going to help us study the brain while it's alive. It's hopefully going to do things to save lives. what's something you're super excited about? You know, wearing your DOT hat or just technologist hat, visionary hat?
So I dabble a little bit in research. When I say dabble, I mean dabble. I work with some folks and they do great work. And you know, I hate to beat the drum because I'm half the time I'm exhausted talking about AI. I get really tired of talking about it. We talk about it so much, and the other half the time I'm like, man, that's so cool. And so you kind of hit on some of those elements, and it's what can we do with it? And I was a medic. Okay, I like, you know, anytime I hear about saving lives and curing diseases and preventing injuries, and which some of the things you said really, I want to enable that. And so AI, I really like getting into the AI stuff where they're able to synthesize all this data and pull out insights rapidly that we haven't been able to crack for years. And when we apply that to medicine, and so we talk about, increasing longevity. We talk about, curing diseases. Those things really jazz me up. And part of it's my background, part of it's my tech nerd, sort of approach. I love the research as well. But that's it. I mean, where we start seeing real value, especially as it relates to people. Right? I want to make sure that people get better, and whether it's better life, better health. I also liked what you said earlier about the ability to do more things. There's a term called cognitive surplus, right? And that term basically means that we have enough free time to be able to use our heads. And we're in an unprecedented age for that. I think AI is going to help accelerate that, which means we can do more cool stuff. How can you not nerd out on that? That's cool as hell. So that's the kind of stuff that gets me excited.
And, and the other thing that I wanted to add to that is, not just that. I think the money is going to be made when you see what the second degree products we have. Right? Right now, we're just building the bare bone foundation. Think of it as electricity being invented, right? Right now, we're inventing electricity, right? The money is going to be made when you build a television that runs on electricity or a toaster that runs on electricity, because without electricity, all these things are dead. There's nothing that works. So we're in the age where we're still industrializing the AI base. And what's going to be built on that industrialized base, where you can just plug it into that AI model and feed those things. That's where those medicine and longevity comes in.
So they're getting into this is why I love having Cara on the COI working group that we do around smart cities, because the art of the possible. And I will say this, bringing it back to humanity, it goes back to what Gabrielle was saying and Cara, like when you come to talk to the agencies, if you humanize what you see as your own, within your own thought leadership, that's powerful when you're talking to a potential customer. So let's go to you, Gabrielle. Vision. This, you see the future. Is there certain technologies you're excited about, and where you see it having an impact on humanity?
Well, I will be quick. So I want to hear from you, Cara, especially, because I think that this is huge when we talk about moving forward. I'm going to be boring because when I talk about and I look at the future, I'm probably less focused on a technology and or a tool, moreover, than I am the drive towards consolidation, the drive towards, really that optimization and how we integrate all of the tools, the technologies, especially when you're talking about that happening on a multi-agency basis. And then I also think about the layered complexity between that unification, moving into consolidation and shared services, while also having IT and the business at the table, making those decisions, and then the technology driving it. So that's really what I'm focused on right now as we're seeing those initiatives come to fruition on a larger scale.
And it's a great point. I'll say, work in the street like I do, I talk to a lot of agencies. Again, I don't sell anything, but I listen and I hear that is where, right, wrong, or otherwise, for years, folks know you can sell to different factions and sell the same product 10 times over into the government. I mean, it works. Reality is everybody benefits, and on both sides, if we think of things, I think from an enterprise perspective, and that was an unintentional, but segue to you looking at that, your view of whether it's a technology or, to Gabrielle's point, about a service, a way of doing business more efficiently.
What if it's all of that?
Ooh.
Oh. So I mean, like my self-worth, where I feel like I'm really contributing, is solving problems. And you don't do that without people, process, and technology. Like you're not going to get to good quality data that's feeding your AI without people, process, and technology. So when you bring all of that together, the curiosity of the people, the process improvement, and then the technology, you're going to solve those problems faster. Even if I today use a chat tool to tell me how we're solving, like how many tickets and users related to SharePoint Online were on tier 1, 2, and 3, so I know who I'm paying who. But hey, nobody had to go through 6 months worth of tickets. I just asked this chat tool to do it for me, which, you know, made me feel like I solved a problem before I came here today. So,
Hey, hey.
and hey, I made it here safely, even in the rain. So thank you both for that. I will feel like we've really made it though. I grew up in the era of watching the Jetsons, and if I can get a Rosie the robot, that's when things when we've made it.
The pet robots are kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that doesn't like clean my house and make my dinner.
Well, it does keep the house cleaner if you don't have to be cleaning up the
Yeah.
stuff, but it can't. Anyway,
How about if you attach that pet robot to a Roomba?
I mean, that's
Kind of.
Yeah. I want the dinner part too. I want to hit Rosie's belly and my dinner pop out, and then we've really made it.
Or a DoorDash.
So-
Like,
So we're down to the end of our hour. I'm gonna ask, and this is what I do with these folks, they don't know that they get to give, and they're going to give a 30-second parting shot. What you want to leave with the audience, something you felt you heard today, or you just want to convey, it'd be awesome. You're thought leaders, change agents, and you're amazing. And all of you, we're not, do the Q&A after. You have a lot to talk about, to reach out to and communicate with these folks. Just based here, I made so many mental notes, but I wanted to, let's do this. A parting shot, Justin.
I'm gonna tug on the theme that you kind of introduced earlier, which is look to those partnership groups that we already have as ways of engagement. It's an easy way to learn more about the agency mission, and I get to learn about you. I am a part of the board for the Cyber COI, so there's a reason I'm plugging it. But the reason I'm in that role is because I got to interact with you guys to solve problems. And the exchanges, you get to hear about this and bring it back. We work together. It's pretty beautiful. So I just want to tug on that and really emphasize, like, if you're like, how do I get to talk to and learn more about these missions? That's an easy answer right there. I mean, and it doesn't have to be ACT-IAC. There's several others. I don't want anybody to beat me up for plugging them, so I'll stop there. But there are several others. Just get out there and talk and interact with your government partners, and you're going to find a lot of synergy. So I want you to take that away. It's like, go out there, do that bit, because we can learn from each other, and that's the best way for me to learn about you.
Wonderful. Okay.
I would just say, you guys are solving problems. We are solving problems. And it's okay if we're not solving the same problem, right? But having that conversation with an open mind sometimes gives us ideas, right? If you ask me, Ankur, what's one thing you're doing right now? Like, which is standard LinkedIn message that you get. I probably just not respond, right? So, but if you share your ideas, that may spark an idea on our side. There may be synergies that we can explore. So I think I'm gonna second what Justin just said. It's all about connecting at that level, dots and bridges, and having meaningful conversations and perhaps solving the same problem. But if we're not solving the same problem, at least connecting with others that are solving the same problem.
Starts with human connection.
Yeah.
Cara.
So I don't want anyone to take away that I said I have plenty of money. But no, I think the people part is what is really driving change. So joining the groups, very grateful that I'm connected with this group of people. Our disruptors in government is disrupting meetings via my watch as this is going on. So if you're looking for a fun one, I'll get you messages right away.
Gabrielle.
So mine is on theme, not surprisingly, with collaboration. And that's actually how I got to know these folks and many of you in the audience, I'm sure many online. To your point, all of your points. ACT-IAC is one that I think is amazing, and there are a lot of other industry engagements. And I would really encourage folks, both on the government side and the industry side, to increase participation, because when we do collaborate more, that is how we expedite not only problem solving, but certainly how we can generate efficiencies on both ends. And that's not necessarily just a cost savings, it's streamlining the way that we're doing business. And really what that does is benefit the public, which is what we all serve. And so collaboration to me is probably the biggest thing that I would love to leave people with. And it's been one of the things that I'm most grateful for. And I have to give a shout out to ACT-IAC, not just because I happen to be at an ACT-IAC event, but it really has been an amazing way to learn and to grow on both ends. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for leading this.
Hey, I still get one because I got to right back. No.
We tried to cut it off, guys. We tried.
So again, I'm independent. I mean, like I said, I work for me, you know, me, myself, and I. First of all, thank you. You're all amazing. You know that. I love working with each of you in some capacity. Again, I just got to know Justin this year. I didn't know you, Ankur, if it wasn't for Justin. It's kind of cool. It's an effort. It's purposeful. And I would challenge everybody to have purpose when you meet with a potential customer. This is coming from my former Govy. Like, I loved people who came into my office. I was just in with my buddy Nate down at NNSA yesterday, and I walked in and I saw a New Mexico State Aggie hat. I saw a few other things. I saw he had kids. I had the same look. I wear a Villanova pin. Somebody thought it was Vanderbilt. Felix. Sorry, not the right V, but no, I love Vanderbilt. You can learn a lot about the people by just observing. There's a reason I would decorate my room, because I'd rather get to know you on that level versus a PowerPoint that you come in and say, she never has done it. And I never bought a thing from Maximus, but just listening to Gabrielle, it was like, wait, who do you work for? Are you a vet? I never really knew. But these gentlemen and this lady here, these are folks that you want to get to know. They've humanized themselves. Thank you for doing that. So I always like to do this quote thing. And Maya Angelou's came, the famous quote, not what you said, what you did, but it's how you made people feel. That's what matters, right? We've heard that, but think about that for a minute. Facts tell and stories sell. And most last of all things, the Greek power of three for me, as I heard today, it's seeking and solving is 10x buying and selling. Seek out the problems, and I say to government as well, seek out those who can help you solve those problems. It goes both ways. So thank you, and everybody online, shout out to ACT-IAC. We hope you walk away with a few light bulb moments. Take advantage while you have your folks here, and I'll see you all around the Beltway. All right, cool.
Thank you all.
So yeah, everybody, for those of you in the room, this tells you a lot. It's a story on the budget, and thanks for coming out.